right here just before Christmas, the T.G. Brooks Supply Company. Rob Hall with you. Want to let you know that we always look forward to our visits here at T.G. Brooks's. As Johnny Coley and I talked about last week, we never know what the weather may bring. And it's cold today.
Yeah.
The sun's shining, but it's apt to start snowing at any given time. Want to let you know we're brought to you by T.G. Brooks Supply Company, 411 Helena Mariah Road, right here in beautiful downtown Timberlake. Milam Rental, Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers, and also J.T. Allison, Jody and Kim rocking the county one load at a time. And I want to let you know we did not spare any budgets this week to get this crew on the program. We're just all hipped up and happy. Want to make welcome to the program today Mr. Rufus Edmonds, Mr. Mike Rayleigh, and Mr. Johnny Coley. And in the background, we got Mr. Dave Bratcher, customers of T.G. Brooks Supply Company. It just gets bigger and better. And back behind the camera, David Bratcher Jr., a.k.a. Kilby. But we're just glad to be here. It's a Christmas season, and we're excited. And nothing no better way than being right here close by the country ham tree at T.G. Brooks.
I'll tell you, the last time I was here, I guess it was last May, June, sometime like that. I bought a ham, whole ham, and they sliced it, and I took it home. I gave it to neighbors and friends, and we ate a lot of it. Larapin, as the old folks used to say. Also bought a straw hat and a pocket knife. So I had a good time in here. This is a wonderful place.
Absolutely, a wide variety of goods here. And you mentioned the country ham. I've had numerous people to tell me over the years. They say, Rob, Dave Bratcher always talks about them country hams from T.G. Brooks Company. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you what you do. You buy one, then you'll talk about them. And I've had people to tell me, they said, we bought a ham from T.G. Brooks Supply Company and said they are absolutely 100% wonderful. Here's somebody now purchasing a ham. So Mike Rayleigh gives his stamp of approval.
Absolutely. Right. You have to, I had to tell folks who hadn't had country ham out of a package or something to make sure that you soak it a little while. You got to get some of the salt out.
Yeah.
So,
but that's what makes it so good.
I know. Just wonderful.
Anyway, for those folks that are, or maybe for me with Mike and Rufus, Mike is a voice on the North Carolina News Network on WPTF, the Weekend Gardener program.
At least I was at 9 o'clock when I left the station. I don't know when I get back.
And Rufus is also a feature on the program, and Rufus is kind of one of the mobile hosts, so to speak. Would that be a good way to
Did you say sober?
No, mobile.
Oh, thank you.
It's called E-mobile.
Right.
Anyway, Rufus, I understand that no matter where you are, you have a way to get in on the program.
Well, I have called from many a place, from Boone on a couple occasions. I've called from Canada. I've called from Blowing Rock. And one time I was sitting in Boone, and this couple was over there, and they listened to me, and they said, we know about the Weekend Gardener.
You were sitting on the porch of a motel.
Yeah, and
they thought you were talking to
the Hampton Inn, and they were all aglow. And I've rarely missed. I don't think I've missed, but maybe one in my entire 17 years, Mike.
Even from the hospital room you've called.
Yeah, I had a little procedure in the hospital 4 or 5 years ago, and I was sitting there on my cell phone, and the two doctors walked in. I said, hold it here. You guys ever been on a radio show before? No. I said, well, this is the Weekend Gardener. And I handed it to the doctor and said, say hello. And he just cut me wide open. And that was quite a day.
And so that the old saying, the show must go on, and it did go on.
It has. There's never, of my show, there's never been a recorded version played. It's been live for 40 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Every Saturday.
Is a record.
Yeah. Now, I have been away and had people fill in for me a couple of times a year usually, but it's always live.
Wow.
That's old radio.
Wonderful.
Well, Mike called in from foreign country last year. Was it
Croatia?
Adrian Croatia?
Yeah.
and it's just as clear as a bell.
Yeah,
Ain't that something?
It's amazing.
Technology.
right.
Well, Rob, I remember I mentioned you coming in here. When we were here, the last time I was here, or another time before, your mother was making homemade strawberry ice cream.
Peach.
Peach. And it was unbelievable. I wish that were replicated today.
I do too.
I'll
And,
take you to the store and get you some ice cream, Rufus.
Yeah.
We leave.
We'll have to do that again.
It won't be like hers.
No,
It sure
no,
won't.
definitely not.
But anyway, I don't know how many times you all have been here on the program. I know Rufus hadn't been able to attend to every one. Sometimes we can't fit him in the budget.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, it's the entourage and all the things that go with this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But what I was going to say, Mike has told me. He said, Rob, he said, anytime y'all are at T.G. Brooks Supply Company, he said, count me in. He said, because I really enjoy it, and they make you feel like home here. And,
I love it.
The old-fashioned country store with some added new things. The tradition started in what year, Johnny?
Tradition, you caught me off guard
No,
last
T.G.
time.
Brooks Supply Company, of T.G. Brooks Company.
It started 1936.
You go. With the little cheat sheet on your shoulder. That's good. You passed.
At least he knew where to look.
But you know what? Dusty Clayton is continuing on the tradition that's been going on for a long, long time. And if all of us are here in, 2036, maybe we can be here and, help christen the 100th anniversary,
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
It really would. So, but anyway, continuing on, want to let you know we appreciate our listeners. We appreciate our sponsors. We appreciate our esteemed guests on the program. We're very fortunate with our relationship with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. We typically work with the Person and Granville County agents. Now, Mike, on the weekend gardeners program, you work with a wide variety of county agents,
I do
right?
indeed, and Johnny is certainly one of them, and I'm not sure what we would do without the Extension Service in so many ways, not just horticulture. They serve us it used to be the home economics, there are other names for it now, and of course the farmers need them a great deal. The Extension Service in general is far and wide across North Carolina and a part of North Carolina State.
We are very extremely fortunate, and so many of the services that they provide are free of charge. It is a few things, tests that you may want to have done. It's a nominal fee, but it's not bad at all. But so here it is.
Those are NCDA. The test and everything are NCDA. They're the ones that charge. is
That's
NCDA.
right. Oh, well, good point there. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you are the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. So, but if you're thinking about, a spring garden, it'd be a good time to go ahead and get your soil samples if you hadn't done it yet. It's a $4 fee up until the end of March, a small price to pay. And, the soil sample is something you cannot correct overnight. It takes several months to get everything done. So, Johnny, it'd be a good time of the year to get those soil samples, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. You want to go ahead and get those in. Right now, it's probably, I haven't checked lately as far as the turnaround time, but it usually increases this time of year because a lot of farmers get theirs in. So it can be, by the end of December, 1st January, it could be 6 to 8 weeks out. So, go ahead and get them in if you want to. And I always encourage the homeowners to get theirs in prior to Thanksgiving, take advantage of the free time, and also you can go ahead and get some lime out and get that soil prepared for next spring, because you can put lime out any time of the year, and it doesn't occur overnight with adjusting the pH. So you need to go ahead and get that out, get your soil test done early. But yeah, I would encourage to go ahead and do it now. We had a good rain. Wednesday, so ground would be good to, soft to make those samples. Make sure it's not too wet. If it is real wet, you want to let it air dry for a day or two before you submit it. But
There are several different types of lime now available to the homeowner, and farmer, there's the powdered lime that we're so familiar with, and there's dolomitic lime, and there is more of a fast reacting lime now. So which should we use?
I always just recommend the ag lime. Calcium carbonate is what you want to do, and you really want to look at the bag and see what your calcium carbonate equivalent would be. But just using the fast acting ones, sometimes they don't work with the soil type that we have. So you want to just the ag lime, dolomitic lime. You mentioned that has magnesium in it. So if you need some magnesium, most people do use the dolomitic lime, but just your ag lime. The pelletized is easier to put out just for spreading purposes. The powder might work a little faster because it dissolves faster, but it's difficult if you ever try to spread that powdered lime. It can be hard to get it distributed correctly. So the pelletized, just putting the pelletized ag lime out, calcium carbonate is what you want to you have in your active ingredients. So that's what we always recommend.
I got powdered lime one time. I said, just as well get a sack of flour. That was the most aggravating thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Got it all over me. I looked like Frosty the Snowman. So I'm all for pelletized.
Yeah. Pelletized is the best. It's just hard to distribute, and it takes 6 to 9 months after you put it out for it to totally activate in the soil and get your pH corrected. So, and that's the reason a soil test is good, because you may not need to add lime. A lot of people will add lime when they don't do anything else. They just assume they need to add lime. That's not always the case. I've sent a lot of samples off, especially for lawns, where people have done that over year after year, and the pH will be up in the 7 range, 7, 7.2. That you don't need to add any lime if you have that kind of pH. So,
Well, Johnny, as a general rule, though, without soil testing on tomatoes, I grow in pots now, it can't hurt to put a little lime on your tomatoes soil.
for calcium, that's what you're doing for those, is for calcium, especially you raise them in the containers, Rufus. You could add some of that. I've also recommended for that purpose using gypsum, which is calcium sulfate. That's not going to affect the pH. That'll give you the calcium, but it doesn't affect the pH because the sulfur will balance out, and you don't mess with the
They're
pH.
getting out of my pay grade here now, talking about balancing this and that.
Well, you just, the gypsum works well if you don't need to increase your pH or decrease your pH any. Of course, sulfur, if you need to decrease your pH, sulfur will do that. So you add sulfur or a sulfur product to lower your pH. So, it's always good to know what you're dealing with first with your pH, though, before you go and just add anything to it. It's always
Well,
good
that's
to
pretty well that much in life. You better know what you're dealing with.
That's right. That's right.
I believe Rob knows a little about gardening, because he brought up this lime business.
Yeah.
You a garden man?
I love vegetables. I'll leave it at that. We're going to take a break and get a message on for T.G. Brooks Supply Company. We're also brought to you by Milam Rental, Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers, and J.T. Allison, Jody, and Kim rocking the county one load at a time. And a lot of these big shows, they talk about, apparel is, sponsored by such and such. Well, our snacks today are being sponsored in cooperation with Dr. Pepper, 10, 2, and 4, Lance Crackers, Miss Melissa Rayleigh, and our T.G. Brooks Supply Company. And we want to say we really appreciate it, because if it weren't for those 5 folks, I would be hungry, and Rufus would be too.
I noticed that Kilby, our producer-director, has already busted open his box. How is it, Kilby?
All right, we'll be back after a message from T.G. Brooks Supply Company with some wonderful gift ideas available here.
It's very addictive.
Look at that. There's the old rooster crowing on the background. Appreciate that, Conrad. We're broadcasting live today from T.G. Brooks Supply Company for the Gardener's Corner program. Johnny Coley is our agent today with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. He's a horticultural agent. And we've got Mr. Mike Rayleigh of WPTF and Mr. Rufus Edmonds of the Weekend Gardener program, an extraordinaire. And yesterday evening on social media, I saw a posting that Mike had put on there, And when I saw it, I said, they're supposed to be with us tomorrow at T.G. Brooks Supply Company. But I said, I don't know if they're going to be able to make it, but y'all surprised me. Y'all was here.
I'm a teetotaler, kind of.
Well, we had the annual Rufus Edmondson Christmas party.
Right.
And a lot of cheer was there, happiness. Nobody got out of hand. Nothing unusual, a lot of good food. Mike was there, and he stood in the corner because he doesn't mix. He's not like his wife Melissa. Now Melissa spoke to everybody in the room, and Mike was standing in the corner, and people come to him because they know him.
That, Mr. Chairman, that's not true. I object.
Well, now,
We're lucky to be here.
yeah, but so you did have the annual party last night, and how many people do you typically draw to the?
About 125.
Oh, wow.
About $1.25 be around that, and a lot of good food there. And I'm not going to say anything about libations because this is a good family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good family station.
Well, it is that time of the
And
year.
you got the owner back here.
That's right.
He's going to monitor everything we say.
Yeah, he's got the beat button back there. If we say something he doesn't want on air, he can just press that little button. So
Yeah, he writes the check too, Rob.
that's the big button.
The man,
That's right.
the man who can pop you beside the head is back there, and he does that.
Well, now Rufus, a question. You ever thought about writing a book?
Well, I've written one.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, it's called That's Rufus.
That's Rufus.
And there's a lot of good stories in there.
Rob obviously hasn't read your first book.
He might just get one in the mail. Yeah. Well, but Rob, I'm going to write another one on civility. In this day and time when everybody's on one another's throats and all this nasty talk going around, everybody trying to find something wrong with somebody, I decided to write a book on how to get along. And I've used an example of my days in Watergate when we had a man named Senator Sam Ervin from North Carolina. And he was the chairman of the Watergate Committee, and you got to be older to remember that. But he had a co-chair named Senator Howard Baker, who was a different party. But they got along. And I want to write a book that's uplifting about how it's easier to get along than to not do so. And I'm using examples of different people I've known over the years. My friend Connie Chung, if any of you ever remember, Connie was on TV, and Leslie
Yeah,
Stahl.
I remember her. Yeah, I
Leslie Stahl.
remember her. Yeah.
And my friend, I'm going to say it, Bill Clinton, who's a guy who you may not agree with him on everything, but he was a civil person. And he listened
And you
to
have
people.
friends on both sides
Yeah.
of the aisle,
Yeah.
too. So.
And that's what we need today, and the country yearns for. So yeah, I'm going to write another one, Rob.
You
Yeah.
are from 2 for 1?
Yeah.
2 for
I'll
1.
offer 2 for 1.
I'll buy you a book, Rob.
Well, you know what, Rufus, I've always believed that you can get just as many flies with sugar as you can something else.
You certainly can.
And if you show a little bit of flexibility, the old expression, you got to give a little to get a little. You know?
And I think it all starts in the garden. That's a nice
I
place to
do too.
relax and make friends.
But anyway, kind of moving along, Johnny Coley.
Yes, sir.
What should people be doing, here in December other than Christmas shopping?
Well, yeah, decorating for Christmas. We talked about Christmas trees last week. Was at a establishment yesterday and got a North Carolina Christmas tree, Fraser fir. But it's that time of year to look for poinsettias. We talked about them a little bit. We didn't talk about a couple of other Christmas plants that people a lot of times will use as cyclamen. One is called a cyclamen.
I have no luck with cyclamen.
Cyclamens are a little difficult. They can be a little tricky.
I love them.
The main
I love
thing is keeping them dry. They just don't like to be wet.
They like light.
They do. They want some pretty good light. They don't make as good a house plant probably as the poinsettia does. But they're different, and people do associate them with Christmas. And then of course the Christmas cactus. You actually have the Thanksgiving cactus, Christmas cactus, and Easter cactus. So depending on the daylight is when they bloom. But they're always pretty and usually a fairly easy keep, easier than the cyclamen. Of those three, the cyclamen's is definitely the most difficult. But as far as in the landscape, cleaning up, trying to get the perennials cleaned up that have died back, hosta. Some of them you want to actually leave because there are some insects that will live in those through the wintertime that'll winter over in the stems of some of the Rudbeckias and some of your perennials. So you don't want to clean up everything.
I've always heard that leave lantana for that very purpose, and some of it is more durable than not.
Yeah,
than others.
The only lantana that I recommend in this area to be perennial is Miss Huff.
Yeah.
There are some other ones that claim to be perennial, and some years they might, but Miss Huff, I've got a Miss Huff at the house, and it's probably, I say my wife has one at the house that's probably, that thing's probably 6 feet across and 5 feet tall. I mean, it's huge. But you're right, don't cut the lantana back until you see some growth coming out of it in the spring, and then you can cut it back pretty hard, because it does, for something, it doesn't seem as hardy if you cut them back this time of year. Ours was green up until a couple of 3 weeks ago when we finally got into the teens one night. I mean, it didn't have many blooms on it, but it was still green into November this year, which is very odd. But it's toast now. We had 14 degrees one night a couple of weeks ago, so it is brown now. But cleaning up, and getting rid of any diseased leaves and plants. You don't want to let them just sit there and harbor over the winter. They jump right back on the plants next year. Peonies is one plant I can think of that you'd probably want to get those cleaned up, because by the end of the season, the peonies a lot of times will have some.
See, now he said it the right way. That's the way my mama said it. Now, the city slicker way is peonies.
Peonies, yeah.
It's peonies.
Yeah, peonies.
Yeah.
And Johnny, I have to interject here that Michael and I were on the show a couple of weeks ago. Some announcer meant to say cyclamen and said cyclamen. I said, what in the world is a cyclamen?
Yeah, it's amazing. And I don't think I talk about this probably enough on the radio station, but the NC State Plant Toolbox is a great resource for plants. And one of the best features of that site, if you just put in a search engine NCSU Plant Toolbox, it'll take you to it. But you can look up almost any plant. Any plant that grows in North Carolina is on there, including weeds, if you want to know something more about them.
Weeds are considered plants, aren't they?
They are. It's just a plant out of place, right?
That's right.
Depends on, a pine tree in the middle of a tulip bed is a weed. So, but they tell you how to pronounce the scientific name, not the common name, but I mean, cyclamen is actually the scientific name for that particular plant. But it will tell you how to pronounce it. You push a little button and it gives you the pronunciation.
What's the common name for a cyclamen? I never heard anything but cyclamen.
I don't know. Cyclamen's the only thing I know about. You're right. But it's it is. It's sort of like arborvitae. Arborvitae is the common name. Thuya is the scientific name. Thuya is a whole lot easier to spell than arborvitae.
Yeah.
Usually you think of the scientific name being more difficult. Anyway, we digress. But the NCSU Plant Toolbox is a great resource to look up information about plants. And now's a good time to plant. You can plant plants in North Carolina in this area as long as the ground's not frozen or the ground's not too wet. You can still plant.
Don't forget your bulbs.
Yeah, getting bulbs in. Yep, getting bulbs in, and it's a good time. You can plant bulbs now. A lot of people buy them in the fall, but don't plant them until like now when the ground's cooler, because if you're not careful, the ground they'll flush out. Because they're ready to go. Once you buy a bulb, they're ready to go. And if you put them in October, sometimes the ground's still warm enough, they'll start coming up. So wait till the ground's warm. Cool.
Well, now, Johnny, with that being said, I think it got down to like 24 last night. First part of the week it's going to be up close to 70.
Yeah, exactly. It takes consecutive days, though, to get the soil temperature up. Once the soil temperature gets down there, it takes, several days, and the nighttime temperatures are still getting down low, so that keeps the soil from warming up too much. You have to get those consistent days for the soil to warm up. And we really didn't get that consistent cool down This year was the middle of November, really, before we got that. So you do have to be careful with the bulbs, but you can, planting the bulbs now should be fine. Anything that's tender, of course, as I mentioned, we've had 14 degrees, so if you had anything out there that may be a tender perennial or tender shrub, it may have already gotten bit back a little bit. In this area, gardenias are always something that can get a little frostbitten, if you will, through the winter time. But there's a lot of plants that people will protect a little bit from the wintertime weather. So there's lots to do. Always something to do in the landscape, but. I always think about Garrison Keeler. Garrison Keeler was a long-time radio. I don't even know if Mr. Keeler's still with us or not, but he always said he loved when it snowed in the wintertime because everybody's landscape was the same then. Everybody's looked the same.
Good point.
When you get that blanket of snow on them. But it is, it's a lot to do, always something to do out in the landscape. But, this time of year, getting everything prepared for Christmas, a lot of people are putting up wreaths and roping and of course the Christmas trees. A lot of people have gone to the pre-lit trees, but I still like my live Christmas tree.
We're going to take a quick break. We need to get a station identification on, and we'll get a word on from Milam Rental. And when we come back, you mentioned reefs. I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you about those reefs, okay?
All right.
We'll be back with more of the Gardener's Corner program from T.G. Brooks Supply Company here in beautiful Timberlake, NC.
8 miles an hour, and that was getting Mike all agitated. And we had driven around all over the country after.
Rufus, we're back on the air.
We are? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
What we're laughing about?
Sorry.
They made their way in from Wake County this morning, and they've traveled this way. But it was one time that they was here, and after the program, decided Mr. Bratcher was going to take them out to lunch, and we were talking about places to go. So decided to go to Flat River Cafe, and I said, that's a great place to go. And so they was asking me, they said, Rob, how do we get there from here? And I said, well, you go right up here to the crossroads, and you go right straight through the crossroads. You go on down there, and you're going to see a sign that says Trish's Hairstyle. And when you see that sign, you turn right, go to the stop sign, turn left, they up there on the right. Well, little did I know the Patricia's hairstyling sign had been taken down. And y'all ended up on Guest Road. Is that right, Rufus?
All right.
Well, actually, this was after the Flat River Cafe.
Yeah.
I mean, we were
Okay.
We were not paying attention anyway because it was such a good meal, and we were kind of relaxed. But
Well, you left out one thing, Rob. There were 2 or 3 people giving directions.
yes. Let's get the story
all
straight.
yours and 2 or 3
It was
others.
very confusing.
So anytime they travel anywhere, they call me up and they say, Rob has the best way to get there. So
It's the most scenic route.
That's
what I
the
think.
most scenic, right.
Well, we
That's
had
right.
that one.
That's right. We believe in tourism. But back on the program here from T.G. Brooks Supply Company. Got a lot of nice folks here. We got the big boss man, Mr. Dave Bratcher, watching over us. And we want to say a thanks to T.G. Brooks Supply Company for having us here. Rufus, Mike, and Johnny Coley, and myself, along with David Bratcher Jr. Kilby. Johnny, what I wanted to ask you about, y'all had the wreath making workshop last Saturday?
Last Saturday, yes, we did.
How did that turn out?
It went very well, Rob. Appreciate you asking. We had 29 participants, and again, I forget how many years we've been doing this now. I need to get that straight, but I have not seen the same wreath come out of that workshop yet. It's amazing of how many wreaths have been made every year, and everybody makes a different one. I mean, they have the same material to make it out of, but yet it's all, everybody makes a different wreath. We had all kinds of greenery, cedar, cypress, magnolias, I think we had some cryptomeria this year for the first time. It was very, very good. We were able to raise some money for the Extension Master Gardener program in Granville and Person County. Always great participation from those volunteers at this event, and it went very well. So we had it. mark your calendars now for next year. It's always the first Saturday in December. First Saturday in December of every year. So we'll plan to have it again next year.
Well, I tried one time there was a little class going on at a garden center for tying ribbons, making the ribbons, taking them in time. I couldn't move my fingers after a while. That is a really hard thing. Did y'all have to do that too?
No, we do have some Master Gardener volunteers that will make bows, and so we have the bows to put on the wreaths as well. These volunteers, they do a great job of tying the bows. My mom she still makes bows. She's a master bow tire. I wish I had $1 for every bow she has tied over the years, because we used to sell poinsettias at the nursery, and she would tie every bow that went on, every poinsettia that went out of there that was wrapped and bowed. And she has tied a lot of bows over the years. And I'm like you, about two bows, I'm done. My hands are done. But Mom can sit there and tie bows for all day long, and it seems like it doesn't bother.
I think I didn't make one. I think it just kept coming apart.
Yeah, it's definitely an art. I have made them. Somebody asked me last weekend at the wreath event if I've ever made bows, and I said, well, I have made them. I don't know if they're presentable enough to put on anything, but I have made some bows before. So I know the technique, but I never have mastered the art of actually doing it.
So that's why I don't wear a bow tie.
I can do that.
Okay.
That's just tying your shoes, basically.
Yeah.
Except around
Well,
your neck.
I finally mastered that after about 50 years.
Well, we're working with you.
Well, now, Johnny, is it poinsettia or poinsettia?
Poinsettia.
Depends on what part of the country you're from.
It's really
pecans or pecans, Rufus?
It's
Poinsettia.
Pecan.
Up in the mountains, pecans.
Poinsettia sounds better.
Yeah, poinsettia.
Well, now, it's a tropical plant, as we talked about last week on the program. But how did it become associated with Christmas?
Well, the ambassador of Mexico, Joel Poinsett, saw it in Mexico and brought it over, and it just sort of clicked on for being a Christmas, being red. Although, saying that, most of the time we do associate red with poinsettias, but I was at a nursery recently, and they had 40 different varieties of poinsettias. Now, I would say 25% of those varieties were red. There's lots of different red varieties out there, but there are so many different colors now. If red's not your color, they've got pink, white, yellow one, variegated, one called marble that's pink and white. I mean, there's all kinds of poinsettias and colors out there, and even shapes of leaves. The leaf shapes have changed over the years. They've done a lot of hybridizing and changed the leaf. They used to be, I did not see this one this year, was a Christmas rose, and it almost looks like a rose. The bracts sort of form a contorted shape that looks like a rose. It's so there's lots of different varieties and cultivars of the poinsettia. But yeah, it was introduced to the United States by Joel Poinsett, the ambassador of Mexico, and I forget the year. You've got me on that one, but that's how.
What year was T.G. Brooks started?
1936. And
Good job.
I was going to say about that a while ago. It's not what you know; it's how fast you can find it out. So
That's right.
You just got to know the resources there. So and that goes a lot with extension. I've over the years I've said many times, I don't know, but I'll find out. So it's all about who you know and how fast you can find something.
Well, it's why elected officials love name tags, right? We got the new president here of the North Carolina School Boards Association.
Wow.
And that is none other than this dear man's wife,
Margaret Bratch.
Congratulations.
Yay. Good job, Ms. Bratch.
Do you know my friend Chris Haggerty?
I do.
Yeah. A long time.
Is there anybody you don't know, Rufus?
Chair of the Wake County School Board? Yes.
Well, now, Rufus, I got to ask this question. Back to your Christmas party last
I might plead the.
Did y'all serve any poinsettia salad or mistletoe tea over there?
Well, we had some Confederate rose mush.
Confederate roast mush.
Yeah. Well, that's what somebody said it was, but
Never heard of that.
I took a little nip of it. It was heavy. Heavy.
Kind of late on you.
Well, the reason,
Wait on me.
yeah. The reason that I asked that, a lot of people have the perception that poinsettias are poisonous, and they are if you eat a lot of them. But mistletoe is poisonous,
The
correct,
balls,
Johnny?
yeah, the berries on the mistletoe is. So, wouldn't recommend eating the bracts of or the leaves of a poinsettia either. They don't look good on a salad.
I wouldn't recommend climbing a tree to get mistletoe.
Yeah.
That's what a shotgun's made for.
That's right. That's exactly right. Shoot it out of the tree.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now,
gotta
Johnny,
make
is
the
it true that a hellebore is poisonous also?
I don't know about that one.
Well,
Yes,
It
they
is.
are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why deer won't eat them. The only thing I know of that deer
That's what
will
they
not
say.
eat.
Yeah.
To humans
Hellebore.
and to animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the leaves of the tomato is as well. The berry, of course, is not. But I think the tomato leaves
don't tip me.
can have some toxicity. But the hellebores. I know. I can attest to deer not eating the hellebores. But I had never heard about the toxicity of it to humans. So
A little bit of background, Johnny, his family owned a nursery down, in STEM, and that's how he's kind of in horticultural things. How about you, Mike? How did you get into the Weekend Gardener program?
I was a morning disc jockey, and in 1985, and John H. Harris, the Tar Heel gardener for 40 years, decided to retire. And I had worked a little with John because he needed somebody. It was a 15-minute show. He needed somebody to kind of pitch off of and chat with. So I did that. And when he retired, they wanted to keep it. It was a very famous show. So we changed the name out of respect to him and brought in an extension agent, Irv Evans. And I was delegated to, continue on that shift and start this show. And we made it into a 30-minute talk show, and it's been 3 hours for about 30-some years.
Were you interested in gardening and stuff?
Not particularly, but
It kind of grew on you, so to speak.
it kind of grew on. I mean, I grew up. My mother gardened a little bit, but not a whole lot. But I wanted to keep my job, so. And Irv was a very good teacher, and I was able to kind of ease into it because it was only 30 minutes. I mean, you could yodel for 30 minutes and get away with it, I suppose. But I did learn a lot. I have learned a lot.
So it grew into something big.
Yeah. I'm a great advocate of gardening.
He
and all that goes
he
with it.
knows more than he lets on like. He's a great gardener.
Well,
It's
how about
called
you?
survival, though.
How about you, Rufus? How
Well,
did
you don't hear my sorry story. I was born on a farm, and we had 5 boys and 1 girl, and you had to go off down to the fields to hoe tobacco, corn, and my mama was the flower lady for Three Forks Baptist Church, and I would beg my mama to stay and help her in the garden because I knew it was a lot easier work, and I learned all about gardening from my mama.
Wow.
By getting out and going down to the big fields with the other boys. And then one time, I don't know how it happened, how Mike heard, he called me and he said, I hear that you like gardening. I said, yeah. He said, why don't you come on my show? I said, well, I'll give it a try. And here I am 17 years later.
17 years. If I knew who told me that, I'd hug him. I probably.
So y'all were not friends at that time, Rufus?
Well, he had interviewed
I had
me before
covered-
with all my
I had covered Rufus.
years as
a reporter.
Attorney General, Secretary of State.
Oh, yeah.
He was the man he was not mean to people. I liked when Mike came. Now there were some other reporters that I'd try to hide from.
Yeah, I don't know how long the Gardeners Corner program has been going on here. A long time, but I think it came up in collaboration between the late Don Carroll and the late Carl Cantalupi. And I kind of got my start filling in sometimes, for Don Carroll. And then after Don retired, I kind of, became a part of it, and I've learned a lot. Do I do much gardening? As I said earlier, I love vegetables, but as far as planting a lot of things, I do not. But it is a science behind everything, and it's a lot more to it. In the perfect world, you'd plant it, today and harvest it ever how many days later. Yeah. But it takes a lot of preparation and planning. And the planting is the easy part, so to speak. Wouldn't you agree, Johnny?
Oh yeah, I always say the easiest part of gardening is planting. Then the work begins. And you mentioned the days long as far as after harvest. And Carl Cantalupi, Carl was a great friend of mine, and his crop, as we all know, was asparagus. I mean, he was the asparagus man. And
the Johnny
several days
of asparagus.
Yeah, he was very. Very knowledgeable, probably, I'm sure on the East Coast of the United States, probably knew more about asparagus than anybody else. But he, that crop is a long time before you harvest. I mean, first year you don't harvest any, second year you harvest a little, and then you finally the third year you can start really harvesting on the asparagus. So, some crops are longer than others, and then you get into the apple trees and fruit trees and berries and such that you don't harvest for a while on those, but this program too, Rob, is really evolved into more than just gardening and horticulture. We have the other agents on there as well, family consumer science, livestock, the row crops with Michaela as well, and then 4-H. So all the agents have an opportunity now to come on this program and really tell about their programs and everything that Extension has to offer. So it's really evolved more than just the Gardener's Corner program. It's Extension's program, really. Extension's Corner, I guess we'll say.
Well, it is interesting, the way that things happen, but we just have to believe they work out for the best. Wouldn't you agree, Rufus?
I agree, and by the way, let me add a little bit here. We have in our midst here a member of the North Carolina Broadcasters Hall of Fame, Mike Raley. Was inducted. I was there with him, and quite a day. That's a very vaulted, unusual, hard to get into Hall of Fame, and we have one with us right here today named Mike Raley.
Thank you, Rick.
That's right. I hadn't even thought about that. Yes, absolutely.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
For sure.
Very much.
How many years you been in radio, Mike?
Next year will be my 50th year at WPTF.
Wow.
50 years.
And 40 years for the Weekend Gardener.
Who can say they stayed with one thing for 50 years?
Yeah.
That's including
Nobody that I know.
a spouse, a job, or whatever.
My 50th wedding anniversary is next year, too.
All right. Well,
I mean, everything is happening next year.
So she deserves a big award.
Oh.
Would you agree?
Yeah, just for making this peanut brittle.
Yeah.
I know the peanut brittle is good, but honestly, when I saw you had the container in your hand, I thought about it. You brought us some last year, but I hadn't thought about it until I saw the container. But
Well, that's rare. Usually I get
thank y'all. Appreciate it.
stop on the street.
And it's like you said, Rufus, some peanut brittle that you eat, I think, is sponsored by some of the dentists.
Yeah, right.
I never liked it before I married Melissa.
It's hard, but this right here is kind of, I don't want to say soft, but you don't have to bite down
It's
on
crispy.
it. Crispy, that's a good way to put
It's mellow, too.
mellow.
Yes. Wonderful.
Absolutely, to say the least. Well, continuing on, as far as on the Gardener's Corner program, we talk a lot about the vegetables. I'm more interested if it's something you can eat than, looks pretty. But, it's amazing all the different varieties of plants that can just add beauty to Mother Nature's the way that it's been intended. But
And this time of year, too. I mean, I love this time of year because everything seems cleaner with the leaves off and you can see farther. But there are a lot of plants that bloom and have fragrance.
Yeah, this time of year, the Prunus mume is going to be blooming pretty soon, probably. Usually in January, Prunus mume will start blooming, and of course the Edgeworthia is an earlier bloomer. Our Osmanthus fragrans just stopped blooming with the hard
yeah.
freezes a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. I'd walk out the the back door, and if you're not familiar with the Osmanthus fragrans, it's a plant that you won't see the blooms very often, but you'll smell them. I tell everybody with Osmanthus fragrans, you know they're blooming when you walk out and you smell the fragrance in the air, and the hollies, you know they're blooming when you walk by them. You hear them buzzing with the pollinators, usually honeybees on the hollies. So, and then there's the hollies that the deciduous hollies, especially possum haw, that drop their leaves, and those red berries are just gorgeous. And of course, Rufus, the camellias. They're
Oh, definitely. I've got some beautiful, Mike drove right under them today. And don't forget the wonderful Daphne.
Daphne. That's
Now,
right.
my thing, we all say this, don't look at it, don't talk to it, don't do anything.
Don't water it.
Don't do a thing to it. It'll die on
Definitely
you.
don't water it. Yeah.
It's the most unsociable plant in the world.
I love,
It's a loner, is that what you're
The
saying?
loner.
I
Yeah.
have an ugly plant in my yard, but I keep it because even as it gets bigger, it's the winter sweet.
Oh yeah.
And it smells like banana kits. If you've ever had as a child, I don't know if they sell them here.
Banana what?
Banana kits, little boxy type taffy,
Shaped like bananas.
but it has a banana flavor. That's what they smell like to me. And
Oh, yeah.
it's a yellow color, and you can it usually blooms in January into February a little bit, but on a day when you get a little bit of sun and warmth, you can smell it all over the place. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Now, Rob, you're not old enough, but Mike's talking about banana. When I was a boy, for 1 penny, you could get a little, had 4 or 5 little covered banana, peanut butter kits. Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful
You
thing.
mean they had candy that many years ago?
Oh, Lord, yes. Those are famous. Any candy.
Yeah.
Well, that is one nice thing about T.G. Brooks Supply Company here. It's kind of like stepping back in history. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
I definitely would. Yeah, that's why I asked if they might have the candy. Do they have a candy counter?
Well, they have candy,
I'm sure at one
but I don't
point
know if
they
they
did.
have a lot of the,
Weigh it out.
individual piece candies like that. So they do have some, right there where Johnny's at, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the more famous.
And horehound candy.
Horehound. Yeah, that's what I got there.
Yeah. Have you ever been a fan of the horehound candy, Rufus?
Not in the slightest. Nor licorice.
that back then.
I just never have developed a taste for licorice.
Really?
I don't know why.
Well, it's that's the nice thing about having a
Wild cherry
variety of
also.
stuff.
As a child, you didn't eat licorice whips?
Oh, Lord. I'd rather have my mama's homemade snow cream. Snow cream.
Yeah.
Now, we got a lot of snow cream back home. You just go out there and pick the snow, mix it with some sugar and cream, and it was the best thing in the world.
She
on
put
it.
vanilla in it too.
Yeah,
didn't
and vanilla.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely vanilla.
But you couldn't use it for snow, is that right, Rufus?
No, I don't know where that came from. Yeah, you go ahead and use any snow that came, but the first snow was beginning about October through March.
So y'all had plenty of snow cream.
Well, it used to. It just doesn't do that as much anymore.
What kind of candy is that on the top right there, Mike?
you? Sassafras.
Sassafras.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever had
Oh, I've
sassafras
never heard of
candy.
that.
Haven't either.
Wow. That's wild cherry.
Sassafras
Right here.
tea.
You can
hard
warm up to that,
candies,
couldn't you?
and much more right here at T.G. Brooks Supply Company. Hoop cheese, country hams. If you want a radio flyer, a wagon, they've got them. Wash tubs. A lot of things you can find here, flat top grills. A lot of people, I think, have switched over to those flat tops rather than the traditional, maybe charcoal or gas grills, because the nice thing about the flat tops, you can cook pretty much about anything on it you want, and they have them here at TG Brooks Supply.
Yeah, it won't slip through and fall down into the fire either.
And you know what? The nice thing, Rufus, about TG Brooks
Yeah.
Supply Company is you can park right out front. The man can come into TG Brooks Supply Company. The ladies and children can go across the street to Maybell's Boutique. They've got something for the younger children over there. So it's really neat. They try to cater to pretty much anybody, whether you're from Wake County, Person County, Granville, Castle Orange, or whatever. They've got something here. If you're the homeowner, if you're a contractor, plumbing supplies. They even have toilets and electrical supplies here. So kind of one-stop shopping.
Glad of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of your mother up there with the ice cream maker.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. The old-fashioned.
You really, I got to stop and get you some ice cream, Rufus. You've mentioned
I've
it
been
several times.
obsessing over that peach ice cream all since I knew we were coming.
What's your favorite kind of ice cream, Rufus?
Butter pecan.
It is hard to beat. It sure is. I like first available most of the time. You ever had that?
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, look, let's see here. We're going to get a message on for Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers. Well, Conrad Kimbrough's back at the radio station. Appreciate his willing to help keep us on the air. We're broadcasting live right here for our annual Christmas edition from TG Brooks Supply Company. We'll be back in just a little bit right after a message from Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers. All righty, here we are back on the Gardeners Corner program. We're sampling the sassafras hard candy right here from TG Brooks Supply Company.
Now we won't be able to talk.
It's good. It sure is.
Yeah, it's great.
We encourage you to come out and try it. We even opened up a bag, and you come by. If we got something left, we'll share it with you. If not, if we don't, we'll sell you a bag.
Right.
How about that, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So now, Johnny,
Yes, sir.
let's talk about Christmas trees.
Okay.
Is it correct that North Carolina is the #1 Christmas tree producer?
Well, I think they're number 2. It's going to be hard to beat Oregon but for the numbers, but
So
strong
can
number
we just
2
say we're the #1 Christmas tree producer on the East Coast?
on the East Coast. So that's safe.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
safe,
we're
okay.
safe there.
Oh, go ahead and fudge a little bit.
That's Fraser Firs. Yeah. We're gonna say that's Fraser Firs. But and there's some Christmas tree growers in this area actually. Person in Granville County have some Christmas tree growers. They don't grow Fraser Firs. They don't grow in this area, but white pine, some of the arborvitaes. They started out growing Leyland cypress. They're sort of not doing that anymore because Leyland cypress aren't recommended. But the blue ice cypress is a good one. Trying to think of another one that they raise here. They had some of them in the North Carolina State Fair this year. They were featured as far as the Piedmont area grown Christmas trees, or east of the mountains. So they do grow some here. I saw one, and this one's grown in the mountains, called Concolor fir. It's the Concolor fir. It's a little bit longer needles than the Fraser fir is, and it looked different. It was a different tree, but again, that one is grown in the North Carolina mountains. But so there are different ones other than Frasers that are grown here. If you do want a dug tree or a live tree, you could get one that you could plant out, a ball and burlap type, put it in the house, and then plant it outside after you get through using it inside. The only thing with the ball and burlap is they're heavy. They do raise some in containers that may be a little bit easier to get in and out of the house if you wanted to do that. But just make sure that it is a variety that does well in this area. Blue spruce is one, and I love the blue spruce. It's about as pretty of evergreen tree as it gets. And in certain areas, I have seen some blue spruce do okay here in this area, but it takes the right soil and the right location. They won't tolerate that afternoon sun here in July and August for sure. They want to be in a little bit of shade. And it seemed to be a little more rocky area. I've seen some on the Tar River. Probably the biggest Colorado spruce I've seen was near the Tar River, and it's sort of a rockier soil in that area, and somewhat, I won't say mountainous, but that texture of soil there. But yeah, they're great, Christmas trees. like I said, I always like the live ones. When we were growing up, and I didn't mention this is one that's grown, but cedar trees. You know, the eastern red cedar, which has always been interesting to me. It's actually a juniper. Juniper virginiana is a great Christmas tree. And when growing up, that's what we always got. You know, we went out in the field somewhere. It was always hard to find one that wasn't one-sided because it always seemed to grow one-sided. But we'd always get one. And it's amazing when you go to pick out a tree. Even if you do this out up in the mountains, you go and pick up a live tree, and you have this vision of a tree, and it's nice, and it's a nice shape and nice height and everything out in the field. You get it home, that thing grows about 2 feet because when you get it, try to get it inside the house. I can remember a pastor and myself went and picked one up for the church one time, and we picked this tree up, and we barely got it in the front door of the church. It was so large once we got it there, but we got it. Had to make a special stand so it would stand up, but fortunately we had high ceilings in the church. But trees grow when you get them inside.
I hope you didn't do any cussing trying to get it in there.
Well, I was with the preacher. We were trying to keep our religion.
You mentioned Leyland cypress a while ago. They're not fit for anything.
They grow
Leyland's
fast,
really,
but they die.
Oh boy, do they die! I had 4 of them taken out. One went, just like dominoes.
Yeah.
Horrible thing.
Multiple problems with them.
There are. There's at least a couple of fungus that they get, blights or cankers actually on the stem, and then the shallow root they will blow over very easily in a storm. So they're not recommended anymore. The green giant arborvitae is probably the best replacement for it. The green giant arborvitae has some issues as well. I like the hollies. If you're going to make a screen or something like that, the hollies don't grow as fast, but they do a good job.
What we have always recommended is to plant more than one species, variety, like one of the smaller magnolias, holly. There are a lot of different things you could plant and mix and match and have some smaller plants kind of mixed in.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to make a border, a screen border, that's always good. Monoculture is usually you're asking for problems if you have a monoculture in any situation.
Except in osmanthus. Now I'm going to swear by that. I have a hedge moccasin before. It's at least 40 feet tall, and it is. I've probably got 6 of them together. And you talk about you can enter the gate down below, and and mine have bloomed sometimes 3 times a year.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Just a wonderful plant.
Osmanthus would be. A lot of people use loropetalums, and I hold my breath every year with loropetalum because they are used quite a bit in the landscape. There's lots of different cultivars out there now of loropetalum, but I just keep waiting for some disease or insect to start getting on them because they're just used so much. But in a mixed border, that's great. And even grasses. We were talking about planting plants and things in the landscape that look good this time of year. I personally like the grasses in the wintertime. They give a different texture.
muley grass.
Muley
for
grass,
instance, that pink.
Yeah. Because a lot of times people think about ornamental grasses, they think first thing that pops in the mind is the pampas grass. Pampas grass gets huge. In the right setting, pampas grass is nice, but there are so many different miscanthus, pennisetums, and the muley.
Funny story. A very good friend of mine, the late Carlton Tudor, was a News Observer. One of the best. He won awards all over the country, big national awards for his sports writing at the News Observer, and he wrote an article one week. Instead of about sports, he wrote about the city of Raleigh making him cut down his pampas grass. Dear to him.
Yeah. And if you ever have cut down pampas grass, you need to wear a long sleeve shirts and then pants when you do it because they are cut. And the chainsaw works. They really they will cut you if you're not careful with the pampas grass. But lots of different landscape plants that look good this time of year. But the grasses are one of those. Grasses can really accent a landscape very nicely. Lots of different things to do.
Well, a question, Johnny, just talking about different things. Are they trying to eradicate the Bradford pears in North Carolina?
They are. They're not recommended anymore. And I've said this, and I may have said this on air before. I can't remember, but Michael Durr, Dr. Michael Durr from the University of Georgia, has written a book, and he's got several editions out now, and it's the Bible of woody ornamentals for the South. I mean, it's a great book. And in one of the editions, he wrote in there that Bradford pear was one of the most underused trees in the landscape.
Everybody planted one.
That's right.
Yeah.
The next edition that came out, he said, "I will never say that about a tree again." But it is, and it's the reverting. It's the parentage of the Bradford that really is the problem. The Callery pear that spreads around and gets into. Out of control, and even the Bradfords will sucker. They'll colonize in an area if not controlled. So, the Bradford does have a bad name now. They have a program out there, the Bradford Bounty, that if you can if you cut down a tree, I think you can cut up to 5 trees. You actually have to show it standing. You have to show it cut down, and I'm not sure if you have to bring the stump or part of the stump to the place, but they'll give you 5 native plants to replace the Bradford pears. So that's a program they do in different areas, and I think Greensboro is the closest place I've heard of around here that does it. But Bradford pears got a bad name. They were beautiful trees.
7 we need to get cut.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
And
Well, they
believe
don't-
it or not, we bought them years ago through the Cooperative Extension Service.
Yeah. I mean, they were promoted for great trees. We planted them in front of the nursery. Mom still has them there in front of the. But they're very brittle. That ice storm back in
That's
the
the
early
biggest
2000s.
reason I want to get rid of them,
Yeah.
because they're up by a fence line.
And they'll just fall right on.
Well, they can get huge too. I think
They
they're
can.
prettiest, the silhouette, the shape
Yeah.
of one when it's small.
Yeah.
Relatively small. I think attracted people in the spring when it's
Yeah.
blooming.
Yeah.
But if you look in the early spring, late winter, all over the country, now at least all over North Carolina, the area we cover, it is pervasive.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
All you see are white blooms, and I'm told that they crowd out native trees and shrubs.
Yeah. Well, anytime you introduce an exotic plant like that into the landscape, you're going to compete with the native.
Kind of like kudzu.
Yeah. And Japanese stilt grass. It's a lot of.
Well, another plant, Johnny and Mike, is I've always loved them, red tips, but they got overplanted.
Yeah.
And took that disease. I have a couple left. on the
Nematosporium
place.
leaf spot.
Yeah.
But I thought they were a beautiful tree.
Oh, they were beautiful.
Yeah. That same disease gets on hawthorns and other plants as well. In fact, I think it gets on the roses. I think that's the black spot on the rose. Don't hold me to that one, but and that's the reason I hold my breath on the loropetalum, because they are used so much. The red tips, red tips in the 80s, you saw them everywhere. And I've gone blank on his name, the plant pathologist at NC State Extension for a lot of years. He said he had a row of red tips, and he keeps them clean. He kept them clean. This has been several years ago. He kept them clean. He never had any black spot. As long as it didn't get started, you were okay. But he just kept it at bay, and and they made somewhat of a comeback in the last few years with some varieties of.
Ironically, this past year when I was in Greece and Croatia and Slovenia and Montenegro, I saw them.
Really?
In all of at least in the
Very dry, arid
Yeah.
conditions. Yeah. The black spot wouldn't be as nearly as bad there on them because of the dryness. Because the fungus, for disease, there's 3 things the disease has to have, and that's the host has to be there, the actual pathogen has to be there, and the environment has to be there. If you take away one of those 3, you don't
doesn't
have the
happen,
disease.
yeah. We're going to get a message on for JT Allison, Jody, and Kim rocking the county one load at a time, and we'll be back to wrap up the program. I'm sure Johnny's got a lot of information that he wants to share with the listeners, and maybe Rufus and Mike may have something that they want to pass along. That's a classic right there, Rufus.
WKRX.
That's right.
On
We'll
your
be
radio
back.
dial.
That's right. We'll be back right after this message. Back on the Gardeners Corner program from right here at T.G. Brooks Supply Company. Having a really good time with Rufus, Mike, and Johnny. Got Mr. Dave Bratcher, Miss Margaret Bratcher here. Also, David Jr. Kilby's here. My name is Rob Hall. And Johnny, we're going to be at the Texas Bull Sale next Friday in Oxford.
Yeah.
You gonna try to be there and buy a bull?
They don't have any, from what I understand, from fairly reliable source, but they don't have any Herefords this year.
Oh, they do not?
They don't have a
You're a
single
Hereford
Hereford
man.
bull. All they have are Angus, I think. All the rest of them, if they had another breed that was introduced or were entered into the test, but all of them either didn't pass. I don't know that any Herefords were even submitted for the test, but I think Angus is all they're going to have there this year. So no Hereford, but we switched to AI a couple years ago, so we just go with the Hereford AI rather than the having a bull on the premises anymore. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of people there looking for a good bull.
Mike and Rufus, are y'all familiar with what we're talking about?
I married a dairy farmer's daughter. So.
Oh, yeah. Anyway,
Well, I shoot a lot of bull in my career. But anyway, I grew up on a Hereford farm
oh, yeah.
and loved it. I entered one time in a 4-H contest, and I hated to let that little steer go. It was just like a kid. But I knew, Winn-Dixie, here I come.
That's right. You know, that kind of is when reality sets in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're looking forward to being down there next week at the Granville Livestock Arena. Mr. E.B. Harris will be the auctioneer. And this is done in conjunction with the Extension Service, the North Carolina Beef Council, to where these beef producers, they can take some of their bulls, enroll them in this program, and if they meet the cut, they sell them at auction. So it'll be some nice steaks on hoof to make some, good sires for, some upcoming.
These will be some, I understand they went fairly high at the Waynesville sale they had this past weekend. I think it was this past Saturday. They had the same type of situation in Waynesville in the mountains, and I understand the bulls went fairly high. So they
typically they have some in Oxford that bring close to $4,000.
Yeah, these were even higher than that.
They have some that's a minimal.
Yeah,
but,
they'll put a minimal bid on them, but so it's a good place to get a good tested bull to go out there. But we got some other programs I'd just like to pass along. There's a couple coming up in January. The Upper Middle Belt Tobacco and Gap meeting over in Franklin, Lewisburg, North Carolina will be on Monday, January 27th. I think I mentioned this last week. You can get 2 hours of NOD and X pesticide credits there, and also get your GAP training there at this. This is Monday, January 27th in Lewisburg from 9 till 12. So lunch will be provided there. So that's 279 South Bickett Boulevard in Lewisburg. And then they also have one in Caswell County, the Regional Tobacco and Gap training on January 22nd. So if you can't make the 22nd, the 27th will be in Lewisburg, but the 22nd will be in Yanceyville over in Caswell County from 8:30 to 9. So at that one, they're actually going to serve breakfast and lunch. So get there at 8:30 for breakfast, and then they'll serve lunch at 12 o'clock. Again, you can get your pesticide license as well. You can at the Caswell County over in Yanceyville, you can get your respirator fit test training as well. You do need to get medical clearance before the test for that, but the respirator fit test will be offered there. So if you're doing any fumigation, you need to have that fit test because of your respirator. You need to have that certification each year as well. So, that's a couple of things going on. Also in January 30th, we've got the Bridging the Gap, so a seminar or workshop on technologies to improve winter feeding and pasture management. So that's January 30th. That's a $10 charge for this. The other two I mentioned, there's no charge. This is a $10 charge for this one, and this one's going to be held talking about the beef auction or the bull auction. This is over at the NCSU Butner Beef Cattle Field Lab where the bulls are usually kept during the while they're being tested and everything. So that's where this particular workshop will be, and it will be Lunch will be provided, but like I said, there's a $10 charge. And this is a 12 to 1 registration and lunch, and then in the afternoon is when the workshops will be. And that will be outdoors, so dress accordingly.
That's
January 30th, you never know what the weather's going to be. You never know, so you need to dress accordingly for that, because that is going to be outdoors. And then we'll have a blueberry workshop February 1st. Bill Klein's coming up, and we're going to have that over at the in Oxford on 158. It's part of the tobacco research station over there. Is where we're going to have that. There's a blueberry demonstration plot. So we're going to have this starts at 1 o'clock on February 1st. It's a Saturday. We'll have a classroom part of it. Bill Klein will go over his class at the, somebody just came in. I don't know.
That's almost the dinner bell.
That is. That sounds like the dinner bell. But come out on February 1st, and if you have blueberries and want to learn how to prune, Bill Klein is the extension specialist for blueberries, and he knows more about blueberries than he's forgot more than I'll ever know. He's great, and so he'll do the classroom part. Then we'll go out into the demonstration plot and get some hands-on pruning or hands-on information out there in the plot. So come out to that. So lots of things going on. It's a lot of times you think about wintertime, not much going on in extension, but we've got a lot of stuff happening here starting the first of the year. So we'll just roll right into 2025, right around the corner.
Time is marching on for sure. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. Mike, Rufus, Johnny, y'all got any other information y'all like to pass along to the listeners of Radio Roxborough?
I just appreciate you asking us here.
Well, we appreciate you.
It's a nice road trip. Rufus and I enjoy road trips, and it got me out of some work. This is not work, but back in Raleigh, I had to work.
You typically go in, what, about 3 or 3:30?
No, I get up about 3.
You get up about 3?
I get in about 4:30, 4:15, somewhere in there.
All right. What time you get up, Rufus?
I hate to go to bed and hate to get up. But I wake up most mornings about 6. Now, if we go out off-site, sometimes it's 5:30. And today was a blessing. Mike didn't pick me up until 9:15.
That's the first thing he asked me at the party last night.
Yeah.
Not, hello, Mike, what time do we go tomorrow?
Yeah. But I remember another Mike that used to work in Raleigh. I was hoping to see him today, Mike Wilkins. Mike Wilkins. I was hello to Mike. I've worked with him for many years when he was in the legislature.
Yeah.
A fine person from Person County. And I remember Charlie Hubbard.
Charlie, the late Charlie Hubbard, the legal eagle.
Absolutely. He was so good to me in all my races for everything I ran for.
Well, one of the guys that helps us out at the radio station started out at high school working there at the radio station part-time. Brent Gross, he is now an attorney, and he works at Hubbard and Cates.
Well, great.
And he, helps us out with some of the sports games and stuff. And Charlie was known far and wide by many, to say the least.
Very decent guy.
I want to ask Johnny, this time of year we're thinking about tomatoes, but what about preparing the soil if we plant in the soil? And preparing those containers that we may be planting in. What do we do anything right now? I mean, do we add lime now, or
if you
sterilize the containers? Or?
Yeah, if you've gotten the soil test back and it does call for liming, yeah, you definitely want to do that for a tomatoes garden, any part of your garden that might need to add lime. And you could go ahead and add the phosphorus and potassium. Don't usually recommend adding the nitrogen quite this early, because nitrogen goes through the soil so quickly. So if you have nitrogen requirements, then usually that's about 1 pound per 1,000 square feet. NCDA doesn't actually test for nitrogen. They just assume you're going to need it because it does move through the soil so quickly. But potassium potassium, phosphorus and potassium, you could go ahead and get out there and the lime. As far as containers go, if you get the soil out, some people like to use part of the soil that they used the year before. But if you get the soil totally out of your pots, you could, desanitize them or disinfect them with a bleach, like a bleach product.
So the pathogens in the soil won't go throughout the soil? Just the top part of the soil or down where the roots are, or what?
Yeah, it depends on the soil. And my master gardener volunteers always joke at me for saying it depends, but that's one of the extension answers and it does depend on the soil. In a potting soil, it could go all the way down because it's so porous. If you have a heavy clay, it's maybe wouldn't move as quickly as it would through a sandier soil. So, it depends on the pathogen as well. But yes, it can stay, there from year to year. Unfortunately, a lot of the soil-borne fungus, not a lot to do, with them. If you're a commercial grower, you can fumigate and help with that. But on a homeowner, it's hard to do. It's hard to manage those soil-borne fungus in the garden.
It's also a great time to plant things of all kinds.
Oh yeah. As far as shrubs and trees, yeah, definitely time to do that. Get them in the ground. Even perennials, grasses. I sort of tend to like to plant the grasses later in the spring, later in the winter, maybe March. Just get through the coldest. Some of them would be fine, but some of the grasses tend to do better if you plant them later in the winter or early spring.
And if you plant things in the spring, sometimes the root system does not develop enough to withstand the heat of the summer.
Exactly.
If you plant too late in the fall and winter, then the roots are just going to kind of sit there and may not develop. But that's a little safer, I think, than sometimes.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is a better time to plant. Usually when the plant is dormant, it does get established a little bit more because the roots can grow some and get established through the winter. Not going to grow a whole lot, but they will grow some. But they still may need some extra
Somebody's
attention.
breaking in.
They might need some extra
That's
water.
our second chance to answer the dinner bait.
We get a third one, I hope. You do need to keep an eye on the water, and that's something that I may have mentioned it last week on this show, but if you planted something in the fall, you need to keep an eye on the water. We had a good rain this past Wednesday. Today's Friday, so yeah, Wednesday. We had a good rain, and
Tomorrow will be Saturday.
Tomorrow will be Saturday. Does that always happen that way?
What I heard.
Okay,
I can't
all
swear
right.
to it, but what I heard.
But we got 2 inches of rain in Creedmoor, so that'll take us a good little bit through the next month or so.
For the 6 inches of topsoil.
Yeah.
But you dig down, it's
it can
still
get dry.
begging.
Yeah. Although that we had a good rain. I mean, that was a soaking rain that we had, so a lot of it didn't run off. But yeah, this time of year, a 2-inch rain will last a lot longer this time of year than it does in July and August for sure.
Especially in the sandy areas.
Yeah. But you do want to keep an eye on that water, even in the wintertime. Yeah.
All right, well, look, we got to wrap it up. I want to say a special thanks to all of our fine supporting sponsors. T.G. Brooks Supply Company, thanks to Dusty and all of his staff out here, 411 Helena Mariah Road in beautiful Timberlake. Milam Rental, Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers, J.T. Allison, Jody and Kim rocking the county one load at a time. Appreciate their support. Thanks to Johnny Coley, Mr. Mike Rayleigh, and Mr. Rufus Edmonds. Appreciate you being here, Rufus. Before I let you go, Johnny, we're going to put you under the spotlight one more time.
Uh-oh.
Back to the poinsettia.
Yeah.
Joel Roberts poinsettia for extra points. What you can use these points for, I don't know. What year did he introduce that plant to the United States?
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't.
Oh, you don't have anything to look at.
You got the answer right there. I don't have anything to look at. Yeah.
1828.
1828. That would have been my 5th guess at least.
Well, anyway. Well, look, we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope y'all have enjoyed this 1/10 as much as I have today. It's really nice to be in, the presence of some wonderful, knowledgeable people. And maybe it does a little something for my personal character. I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, we'll turn it back over to the radio station. Thank you, Conrad, and everybody have a beautiful and safe Friday afternoon.